Hello, welcome to the channel. My name is Mark and this is FPL Seasons. This is the first episode of FPL Season. It's going to be quite a basic one. Just going over my past few game weeks, where I'm sitting at the moment, 16k. So it's been a really good start to the season. And then after that, we're just going to take a look at what my transfer plans are coming up over the next few game weeks. I still have my wild card available. I'm going to look to play that in game week 12. So my transfers coming up are going to be a few short-term punts. So that is quite exciting. Um, yeah, so the next 4 game weeks, that is what we're going to go over in today's video. Oh yeah, guys, so I am also quite new to this, so lots of the things I'm still improving on. Graphics, also webcam is something I'm going to add to it. Don't have a camera or a proper mic at the moment, so in the next few months I will add that in and learn how it works and just make the videos a bit more high quality. But until then, we're just gonna get into it and learn how the things work and just get some content out there in the meantime. Oh yeah, guys, so this was a quick review of what's happened so far in the season. Game week 1 to 7 there, as you can see, no major scores, just some 70s and 80s consistent scores to climb up the ranks a bit. That one bad game week in game week 6 where everyone just did badly, most of the game wildcarded in that week. I managed to keep it. My structure was set up quite well because a few weeks before that I decided not to go the standard switch of Saka and Isaac to Salah and Pedro. The reason I decided not to is because I just didn't back the Liverpool fixtures as much. And I'm a Liverpool fan, but I didn't want Salah against Forest. I thought the Forest defense was very good, and especially because it meant I would have to get rid of my Arsenal players, then bring them back, because I would definitely want them in game week 6 from that run that they have. So I just left them in there. Ended up getting even a bit lucky. I mean, Gabriel, I left him in there, got a few goals for me, but those guys can do that in those big games. Last week specifically, took a big risk on a Saka captaincy over Haaland. If it didn't pay off, it would have moved me very far down the ranks. But I backed it, and I like taking that risk when it is there. I thought it was a good game week to do it. I wasn't too happy with Haaland and the way the wingers especially were rotating with him and supplying him in the game or two beforehand. It's almost like a different system they're playing now. The wingers don't get him involved as much as they were in the start of the season. With Pep changing up, Savio wasn't starting, and on the other side, Grealish is coming back. It's just wasn't clicking as well. So I decided perfect week Saka against Southampton. I felt like I was underinvested in that Arsenal game. I wanted another Arsenal attacker anyway. Everyone's saying, oh, Saka doesn't haul. But you just look at his expected, maybe not expected goals, but expected assists. And then because of that, expected points is just so high. And that Southampton defense is so terrible. Seemed like a perfect game to captain him, and I really wanted to. And it was one of the decisions, the only thing that would have made me not do it, because I thought it was the best decision to make. And the only thing that would have made me not do it is being too scared of the result of it going badly. So that's something I've been trying to do, is just really focus on making the right decision no matter what the consequences are. Focus on the input rather than the output. And it worked out really well. The other transfers for last week were Lewis and Johnson, which ended up happening right close to the deadline when I saw Diaz wasn't starting. I was also looking at the Everton boys. I was going to bring them in. I think there is a swing coming in the Everton form. I really do. The defense side of it, they've had a bad start to the season, but they've had some big injuries as well. Those big injuries are coming back now. Likes of Brathwaite and Mikolenko, they were supposed to be back. Well, they did come back for a game. Then those rumors, well, the re-injury happened, and I was like, no, let me just steer clear of them. So I did that, but I still think they are a good defense. I'm not going to be going there now. I think they will have some clean sheets coming up, which are going to be hard to find from other teams in the next few fixtures. But I think, especially because I'm looking to wildcard in game week 12, over this short 4 week period, I see a lot more attacking gains, a lot more point gains in the attacking areas. So that is where I'm going to be looking more at rather than my defense. So this is how the team is lining up for next game week. In goal, we have Henderson. I'm not too crazy about having Henderson in goals, but he's a goalkeeper, so I'm also not too excited about making a transfer there. So he's just going to stick in there. He's going to be there until the next wildcard comes. In defense, we have Gabriel, Trent, and Lewis. Lewis, we do not have much coverage for. We have a player we hope would be able to come in for him, but we'll cover that in the subs. Midfield, Saka, Mbeumo. For now, Smith Rowe is in there, and Johnson. Our strikers are Chris Wood, Erling Haaland, Ollie Watkins, and on the bench, this is what it is looking like. So Glenn Johnson, this is Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson started the last game, but before that, not much. So we can't really rely on him to start. But now my thoughts are, I'm not going to, because I'm wildcarding in game week 12, I'm not going to spend a transfer for coverage on Lewis. I'm just going to hope he starts. And even if he doesn't start, he's likely to come on, so that play on the bench isn't really needed. So I'm going to pretty much gaslight myself at the moment into thinking Johnson is a starter for Ipswich, and even if not, he can just come on and get me a point if Lewis doesn't start. So that's what I'm thinking there. I'm happy with my defense. I think it's quite a strong defense, especially for the next 4 game weeks. I don't see many clean sheets around. Everton, I would like to have some Everton in there, maybe some Forest. But apart from that, I see lots of these attacks in the Premier League just scoring against a lot of the teams. So I'd rather have your Liverpool, Arsenal. Arsenal haven't been that safe this season, but I don't want to get rid of Trent. I like the Liverpool defense. I've been most confident with the Liverpool defense out of all of them this season. And apart from that, I feel comfortable with the rest of it. So I'm just going to leave that defense in there. I'm not going to try to chase a lot of points that just I don't feel like they are there in the defense. I don't think there's a lot of clean sheets to go around. All these players in my defense do have attacking potential. So I'm just going to leave them in there until the next wild card and focus on my attacking areas. So this is one of the decisions here. Before we get into the transfers is whether I'm going to start Rodgers or Smith Rowe. I had Rodgers in the starting lineup all international break, and only probably from about a day or two ago, I moved Smith Rowe into the starting lineup. Smith Rowe would start. After he benched the last game, I just took him straight out of my team and put him on the bench. If I wasn't going to make a transfer, that would be a difficult decision. But luckily, I am looking at making one. So transfers coming up, this is what we're looking at. Next 4 game weeks. This is revolved around my team specifically because I'm planning to wildcard in game week 12. So I've taken 3 teams that I really like. I like the players, I like the team, I like the fixtures in this next 4 fixture period. One of the things I'm looking to do is potentially move off of Bukayo Saka in his hard run coming up after the Bournemouth game. So he's facing Liverpool, which, as I said, I feel like it's been the best. Well, it has been the best defense over the season. They've looked very safe. So I wouldn't be surprised if he scores in the game, but I wouldn't want him in that game. And then straight off that, Newcastle, I think they're on the up. I think they're finding their feet a bit. I really do. No Europe as well. They're going to have the ability to put in some big fixtures against the big teams, big performances. So I do see that as a tough fixture as well. And jumping on someone like Foden, a Pep player, if you get them in the right 3 fixtures, it can be a huge swing that pumps you up the rankings a bit. And this is something that people aren't going to do. They aren't going to touch Foden. He's a bit risky because I wouldn't do it. If I didn't have a wild card where I could jump straight back onto Saka, because Saka is one of, for me, like the safest players to have in my team. He's just that standard guy that stays in your team. But this is just a little bit of an opportunity that I'm looking at to jump off of Saka onto Foden. And if Foden starts in these next, I would bring him in the Southampton fixture. So Southampton, Bournemouth, Brighton. If he starts those 3 fixtures, it could be a lot of points gained over someone like Saka, who really does have a tough fixture run in those 3. Then the wild card happens, bang, Saka straight back into the team, along with Palmer. Let's jump to the next slide here because we'll be able to see. So I've set up what these players are looking like. And to be honest, these 4 players, I'm looking to bring all 4 of them into my team. I'm just trying to figure out in what way to do it. Someone McNeil might think is a waste of a transfer and maybe not much upside, but it's just one of those transfers I feel very good about. And I don't like Smith Rowe and I don't like Rogers. They've been good for my team. They've gotten me a lot of points, but I think I've been a bit lucky to get those points. Stats haven't been great. They don't look like they're going to be scoring week in, week out. I mean, obviously, the mid price, lower budget players aren't going to score week in, week out, but I don't see them scoring points. But McNeil over these next 4 game weeks, if you look at that expected goal involvement also in the past, I mean, he's moved positions into the number 10 role, so he's going to be in those goal scoring positions. He's got Ipswich up next, who they just look like they're giving goals to other teams. Having an attacker against them now is just gold. So I really want him for that. He has an okay fixture after that, and then the third fixture in this run is Southampton. So that's something I really do want him in for as well. So he's someone I really think could. Seems like a small transfer, but I've been making a lot of small transfers over the season. I haven't been shifting a lot of big players around. But those small transfers, I think, of where I've been making a lot of small point gains. And it really does build up over the long run. So I think someone like McNeil, I bring him in for Smith Rowe this week. And then after that, I look at bringing in all these other big hitters. Because you have someone like Solanke and Madison, both great players. If you look at those expected goals, I mean, to have 1.68, 1.34 in a single game, that is insane. And Madison, pretty much just as good. Two expected goal involvements in one game. It's amazing. But you also have to relate it to your team. So in the next slide, you can actually see how this would all fit in a few game weeks' time. I have Watkins, and in the next few game weeks, I really don't think Solanke is a much better option than Watkins. Watkins probably even a better option than him. So that's a transfer, even though I want him in my team, it's not something to rush in and about. And you think about if we go back to the fixtures for Spurs, West Ham, it's not as good of a fixture as it was at the start of the season. West Ham are looking like they've gained some form. Crystal Palace, I also back. I think I might be making a narrative of it now, but I really do think their defense is on their up. Their system's looking better. Their attack is looking like they're controlling the game a bit more, which is going to have a direct impact on their defense, obviously. Aston Villa, I actually see that as quite a good game. I know their stats, I saw somewhere the other day that their stats haven't been bad for expected goals conceded. But I think that's a good game for an attacker, especially like Spurs, because both teams are just going to go at each other. It's that Ipswich game that I need both the Spurs guys in at the latest. I need the Spurs guys in. So if we go back to our game week setup here, I can bring in McNeil this game week. And injuries I'm not too concerned about. I have depth on the bench, I really do. Especially if I bring McNeil in now. This game week I have Rogers on the bench. Next game week I can decide. It gives me another game week to really think about that Saka move. As long as he's fit, it does seem like he is fit. The England interim coach is quite confident he will be back for the Arsenal's next game. So I'm not too worried about that. Saka always picks up knocks and then he somehow plays. That guy plays no matter what. So touch wood, but he plays no matter what. But it gives me another week to think about whether I want Foden. I can actually decide whether he is going to start, whether I think he's going to start. What if KDB's in the lineup? If he's back, then it makes it a whole bunch more complicated. But if that's looking like that, then I just leave that transfer, leave Saka in there, and we can find another way to bring in your Solanke and Madison. I'm pretty sure I will have the funds if I move down Watkins to Solanke to bring in Madison, and if not, I just go Kulusevski. I do really want Madison, but is what it is, So that's something to address from there, but ideally, this is how I would want it to work. And with that depth, I'm a bit more flexible with the injuries. So, yeah, this is how we're looking. So next game week, we actually don't have a slide for it, but this is the team, except McNeil in for Smith Rowe. And I think it's a very good a very good team. It's lined up very well, strong, really is. So yeah, that's what the team is looking like for next week, and yeah, we'll be back next week to talk about the Green Arrow.